Hey everybody, welcome back to Grit and Grind. It is mid-October right now, and as you can see, it's super sunny and nice out, almost 70 degrees. This morning, though, it was about 30 degrees, so that's fun. But on the agenda today, I have a bunch of saws here, kind of thinning out the herd a little bit. Me and my dad aren't doing so many trees anymore, still doing stump grinding, but I don't need all these saws. So I have to go through, check all these, make sure they're running, clean them up a little bit, and go from there. Probably post them for sale, try and decide what I'm going to keep. I think the majority of what you see here, which is not all the saws we have, but majority of what you see here is probably going. I'm going to keep at least one of these 201s, but I might keep them both, just have the small saws. That Husky right there is going. That Husky right there is going, and it's a, what model is this? 372 XP. That's an older steel saw that I've had forever. That one right there is a 250, another 250, which are technically homeowner grade saws, but we used to use them as an in-between when you need just a little bit more than that trim saw up in the bucket. This 880 Magnum with I think that is only a 4-foot bar. I'll have to measure the bar on that one, but you can run, I think, up to a 6-foot bar. We didn't get it. We actually bought this for a huge tree that we did probably 6 years ago for a lady. Needed it for that, and I've only used it a handful of times since. Steel came out with the 660 and the 661 after we bought this saw, probably about a year later, and it replaced this saw. This thing is heavy. I believe the head alone weighs like 23 to 26 pounds, somewhere in there. I'd have to check the Steel website, but if you need it, you need it. Otherwise, you do not want to be lugging this thing around. Like I said, we did use it a few times after that, but the 661 is really the go-to saw these days and gets through most of the things we need. So that's still at my dad's. This one right here is a 461, and you can see the chain dragging there, so I'm gonna have to figure that out, tighten that up, see what's going on with that. That saw right there, which is probably the oldest of all these saws, is replacing the saw I used to run for stump grinding, that 372 XP Husky, and I have a 261 right there, and in the back of the truck I have another 261. The one in the back of the truck has, I think, an hour's worth of runtime on it. That one has never been ran since they're brand new. And they're slightly heavier than the 250s. I'm going to keep those two. And then, like I said, I used to keep that 372 there too, but since we ran mostly steels and I have more comfortability with steel, I'm going to get rid of those two Huskies. Never really liked the trim saw. The 201s, in our opinion, are nicer. Everyone has their opinion. Some people will tell you Husky runs better. They've had better luck with them. I'm not here to bash any saws. I'm just saying we mostly run steel. That's what we have our whole lives. They're great saws. That's what I'm going to stick with for consistency. Because not pictured here, we have a 400C, which is still at my dad's, the 661, which is also still at my dad's, and then a 500i, which is the only electronic fuel injected saw on the market right now. That is an awesome saw. When you run that, you'll never want a different one. Slightly in between the 461 and the 661. It sounds different, it runs great, it rips fast. It'll get you into trouble if you don't respect it, but really any of these saws can get you into trouble if you don't respect it, especially that 880. But like I said, no need for all these, so I'm gonna go through, get these laid out. We will gas them up, put a little bit of oil in them, try starting them, and go from there, see what we need. Obviously, I'll have to clean these up, but I want to make sure they run first before we do anything. Might have to get new plugs, might have to get new filters, but we'll go through and see what we need to do. Get these ready for sale. And of course, this one is the heaviest and the largest. The 880 Magnum. They do finally now make an 881. I haven't ran it. I know nothing about it. Probably the same saw. I don't know if there's too much different about it. But we are going to need mixed gas, bar and chain oil. I know at least a couple of these saws have bar and chain oil in them. I don't know how the gas situation is. I'm not going to leave them sit with a bunch of gas in them. And it is mixed gas. I run the steel, whatever the gray bottles are, the 2.5 gallon mix that I run in that red can right there. And run the 2.5 gallon mix in that can right there. Fill with 2.5 gallons of fuel. Keep that separate from all my other fuel, and bar and chain oil. Bar and chain oil will leak if you leave the saws sit around for too long, so I just want to make sure that I have enough gas and oil in there to start these saws, figure out what they need, run them, and clean them up. All right, so I got all my saws laid out here. Like I said, we're going to clean them up, but I want to start them, see if they need anything. So we're going to take a quick peek through here. I filmed a video about the starting procedures on a Husqvarna or Husky chainsaw. So I already had this 372 XP running, and I did the same thing for a Stihl. So I already had this Stihl 250 running. So I'm going to just place these off to the side. And if you want to see in-depth starting instructions, how to do that easy, just flip to those channels. I do have to check all these for gas and oil. We're running mixed fuel, so I use the Stihl gray bottles, 2.5. Put in one of those for 2.5 gallons of fuel. I'm partial to it, but I'm sure whatever you want to run is fine. Just make sure you don't put straight fuel into any of your saws. You'll blow them up. You don't want to be rebuilding them. Some of these are very pricey. Most of these are high-end professional grade saws. The only two that are not are going to be, there's a Stihl 021, an older saw in the back, and then there's the 250 that I set on the ground, but there's another 250 that I do have here. That's a homeowner saw, but we used it as an in-between when you're in the bucket and you need more than a top handle saw and a little less than, let's say, like that 880 or even that 461, because when you're up in the bucket, you do not want to be handling those. They're very heavy. So we're going to check these saws for mixed fuel and oil before we do anything else. Fuel and oil in this 201, fuel in the back, oil in the front for all your saws. They're also labeled. Fuel there, got oil there. The 880 hasn't been run in a long time. Most of these other saws were probably running about 2 months ago. Like I said, we don't need them all anymore, so we're gonna check them all, start them, make sure they run. That has fuel, that has oil, fuel, oil, fuel. And last one, and arguably the most cold-blooded saw. They do run forever. They are very cold-blooded because they're older. The 021, which doesn't have the nice quick release anymore like the newer saws. It actually has, and I'll bring this around so you can see it. The old style caps, which you can put your scrunch in. You need to have a scrunch if you're messing with chainsaws. You can loosen or tighten your oil and gas. So there's enough oil in there to try running that. There's enough gas in there to run that. So we'll set the scrunch down. We will pull off all the covers here, and we will run these all to make sure that they are in working order. Before I start the 461, I will have to tighten that chain up, so we'll get to that in a minute. But let me get the other saws going. Again, proper starting procedure is in another video, so I won't bore you with that. Oh, that's my mistake. I'll tighten that up. I'll get some paper towels and some Speedy Dry, and we'll take care of that in a minute. Quick tip, pull these triggers all the way back so you can get to full choke. Go until it pops like it's trying to start. Okay. That one was already ready to go. Usually you'll have to pull them till they start, then go to half choke, pull them again. So I will release the brake and stop them. That one's running. I'll give this a quick start and then do the rest of my starting procedures, and then we'll go clean this up. So all the way back to starting with the smaller ones because this one is a bear. So 250, brake on with all the way out. See how it popped? Put this into the half choke position. Try again because it's cold-blooded. It's been a while. All the way forward to stop. The 021 I'm not looking forward to because, again, it's very cold-blooded saw. These older saws, they run good, but they are a pain to get them started. That all the way down. not even attempting to run. So I don't smell gas or coming out of this one, but I'm gonna guess probably needs a new spark plug. Look at that one a little more in depth. For the Huskies, slightly different. Again, there is a starting procedure video on this, but I'll show you real quick. Press your purge a couple of times. Fuel is in there like 5 or 6 times. All the way down on this one, the blue lever. It's always going to be blue on these, but that's your choke. Brake on. Stop forward would be off, so turning the saw off, so it's off right now, so it should run. The saw hasn't been ran in quite some time. We'll try it without a choke. Okay, this one doesn't want to run, so I'm guessing same thing. We'll have to check spark plug in this. The 461 we'll check in a minute. I have to tighten that chain first. 880 should fire up. I am going to start this one on the ground because it is a heavy saw and it can be a bear. Let me get set up to show you how to do that and get that one running. So the 880, I'm going to go ahead and start the proper way because that head weighs somewhere between 23 and 26 pounds, I believe, without the bar on, and that is a long bar, so it's heavy. I don't want to try and start this one any other way. There's a decompression knob here that you press in until it clicks. It's already in. You can go ahead and make starting a little bit easier. This one hasn't ran in a long time, so we'll see what happens. Brake engaged. Ooh, yeah. That one doesn't want to run. I'm going to go ahead and, well, I'll try it on half choke once, but I don't think that's going to do it. Even with the decompression in, it's tough, so I'll probably have to dig into this saw a little bit. 3 saws so far that we couldn't get working. 461 we got to tighten up before we do anything for it. Flip this to the off position. As you can see, we got some sag there. This has 2 knobs. This is where your handy dandy scrunch tool comes into play. Just grab that. Tighten this up before we attempt to start. This is actually real loose, so I'm gonna take this right off. These were already loose. These are not a captured nut, by the way. Some saws do have captured nuts, so you won't have to worry about them falling off with the cover. Set those right there so we don't lose them. Pull cover off. Clean out some of this crud that's in here. These are gonna all have to get a thorough cleaning, every one of these saws, but for right now, we're just trying to get this to see if we can run it. These are slightly out of place, so it doesn't want to catch, so I'm gonna loosen this up a little bit more. Get your bar back in there, get your chain, get that undone, get onto this rocket. Fun fact, the longer the bars, the more of a pain it is to put chains on. Wrench tool, clean this out just a little bit. Cover back on, nuts on. Tighten these down. You don't want to tighten them all the way so you can adjust your bar. So we'll snug them up just to hold. And you can see we still have a lot of slop here, a lot of slack. So probably hard for you to see, but I can see that the bar is moving and the chain is tightening. So you're gonna want not completely tight, a little bit of play in here. That should be good. Finish tightening. So it has a decompression. Let's see if this saw will start for us. Brakes on. So chain's still a little loose, so I will tighten this up. Next step, we're going to put all these saws away, and I'll show you cleaning these up. And then we'll have to tinker with the 880, the 021, and the Husqvarna, the 540 XP in-bucket saw or top handle saw. Probably have to order spark plugs for those. And see what else we might need, get them ordered to get these saws running in tip-top shape. You can see this one was smoking. That's old fuel in there. I'll end up dumping it. I'll end up dumping fuel in all of these. It's fun to make sure they ran. All right, so next thing we have to do is clean these up a little bit. Now, bars and chains, those are all gonna have to come off. We're gonna have to clean these up better, make sure to get all the sawdust off, everything under the covers. But for now, I just wanna clean up the outside, and then we'll do the bars and chains after the fact. I'm using Purple Power degreaser. You can probably use whatever you want, but this is really good for oil, grease, anything like that. And dirt, of course, which is what a lot of this is oil and dirt. Maybe a little bit of gas, and just an old white under t-shirt that I used to use now as a rag. Keep these around the shop. Don't throw them out when they get worn out. Use them as shop towels. So we're just gonna go ahead and spray bottle's a little messed up, but we're gonna spray these up. Start with 2 at a time, let that sit for a minute. Wipe these off. Don't gotta get them perfect for what we're gonna do. Again, we're gonna resell these, but we wanna make them at least presentable. Already starting to look much better than it did from sitting in the garage. Again, just cleaning up the outsides of these bodies a little bit. You can use some compressed air and more scrubbing. Once we start to break these saws down, take the bars off, take the covers off, that sort of thing. Underneath here, pretty grody still. We'll get some more on here. While that's sitting for a minute, move on to the next one. All right, as you can see, they're still far from perfect, but they are a lot better. That Purple Power really cuts through all that grease, grime, and oil. So we're gonna go ahead next and get bars and covers off of here and clean those up, see what the chains are like, if they need to be sharpened, go from there. All right, so we are back in the garage after a little bit of time. We're working on the new roll-around workbench that I made in the last video I showed you guys, complete with a tablecloth. So we cleaned these saws up in the last clip on the outside, but we want to look at a couple different things here. So I want to check air filter. Want to also check under this cover. You'll see in my hand I have a scrunch tool. If you are working on chainsaws, you need one of these. If you need some more, the cheapest price I have found them is actually in my video description box in the link below. Take you to my Amazon affiliate link for a 4-pack of chainsaw scrunches, and definitely need some of these if you are working on saws. So first, let's make sure that in the position for run you have this all the way to the bottom. Turn this, you can pull this cap off. You can see pop off. This air filter is not the worst I have seen, but definitely could use a cleaning. We'll blow this out with compressed air. This guide that's in here is for cold starts. We are pretty cold now. We are in December, and it's usually been pretty cold, under 20 degrees every day so far here in Western New York. So hold off that air filter. I'm not going to bother checking the plugs on this one, only because I did start all these in some of the other clips. So they're running okay, so that's fine. But we do want to check under this cover. So with your scrunch tool, you want to just loosen these nuts up a bit. It's been a while since this one's been off, clearly. There we go. Loosen this one up as well. Kind of hard to see, but in here you actually have your chain adjustment. So we're going to stick our flathead in there, run this all the way back towards the motor and not towards the bar. We'll be loosening. You can see my chain's drooping now. So run that back a decent amount. Take the rest of these off. Nice if you're out in the field, make sure you have some extras of these. These ones are not captured. Pull this cover off. Actually looks pretty good underneath there. I get some paper towels and wipe this off. I was expecting this to be a lot worse than it was. Need paper towels or a rag. In this case, I'm going to use a rag, and I am going to pull this bar off of here, including chain. Give that a quick wipe. Let's wipe down underneath this cover. Now with everything off of here, I'm going to show you what I'm looking for, which is a couple things. I want to make sure the sprocket looks good, which it does. None of these are worn down, chipped off. Maybe just a little chip right there, but nothing I'm too concerned about. Everything looks tight. Your bar adjustment is looking good. These are also replaceable, just these chain guides. They do get nicked up after so many years of use and abuse, so you can replace these. Those also look good. They're not too worn. I can see that this actually is oiling pretty good. There's oil all over here. That's fine there. And remember, the point is to check these, clean these up, get them for sale. I'm not trying to misrepresent them. I'm just trying to make them presentable, not trying to say that they are perfect. They are in really good shape, some more than others. We're not asking, retail prices for these once we put them back together. Just give this a wipe down. Inspecting the cover, there's a little bit of wear here, like right there, right here. Nothing major, so I'm going to put this back together after I check for burrs on the bar. So pop our chain off, and I'm just looking down, running my fingers down. Our sprocket on the end is good. There is oil on the end of here, meaning we're getting good oil out of this chainsaw, making it to the end of the bar. If things get clogged in your bar, if your oiler gets clogged, that's a problem, and you're not going to get oil to the end of here. I'm going to go ahead and with the scrunch tool, run down the length of the bar on both sides, try and get any debris that's in there. You can see, might be a little hard, but there is some gunk that built up over the years, or however long it's been since this was cleaned up. So that's fine. Obviously there's some crap that came out of here. Give this a wipe, checking bars not bent or anything. So we can, at this point, loosen this a little bit more. Then we're going to reinstall our bar like so, and that, in case you're wondering, does line up with that adjustment guide. This is our oil hole. You want to make sure any of these are not clogged, which they're not. Put our chain back on, and you can actually put these on backwards, which this is the way. Put that on the end here. We're gonna have to come back just a little bit more to get this reinstalled back on, like so. Make sure you're on the end there. And then what I'm gonna do is make sure that it has a little bit of tension. We're gonna put our cover back on. We're just gonna snug these. We're not gonna tighten them up completely. What I'm gonna do is now tighten back up again. Moving towards the end of the saw, you can see my chains starting to tension. You don't want these super tight, you want a little bit of play in them. This is too much still, it's pretty sloppy, but give you an idea. You want to see almost like these could come out just a little bit, but again, not all the way out from the bottom of your bar. Snug that just a touch more, and these will loosen up over time, especially when you put a new chain on here. I'm not for right now. Just like that. Now we have one filter that I am going to blow out just to be sure. Everything else should be fine enough for this sauce. So I'm going to set this to the side. Grab the next one. And this time we're going to do a Husky, which a little bit different. I'll show you these, and then after I do that, I have 2 more steel saws that I need to do. Probably put you on time lapse for that. The older one I might show you just because it's a little bit different to take that off, but I did cover it in one previous video that you guys watched taking that apart. So the Huskies are slightly different. There's no nut or anything you have to take off of here, just these snaps on top for your air box. So this one is dirty. You just gotta unscrew this top, pull your filter off. This one has seen some better days. I'll try to blow it out, but if not, I will go ahead and order a new one to make sure that this is all right. If you needed to pull your spark plug out, it's right here at this point. Just inspecting everything else, like carb on here seems to look okay. Yeah, a little bit of dust, nothing major in here. If I needed to dig into this further, I could take, we're actually missing a screw there. I should probably get a screw for that. See that screw there? There's another one on the other side. You can use your scrunch tool for this. I see this one actually is loose. It must have backed out over time, so let me tighten this one down. Snug them up, find one for that. Now, these are actually the smaller nuts. So I'm going to use the other side of my scrunch tool. Loosen this up. Your tensioner's right here. A little bit easier to see. Back towards the motor. We'll loosen this bar up. Go ahead and pull these all the way off. Filthy underneath here. Now, on here, you can see you got your chain guides here on the cover instead of on the saw itself. These are pretty plugged, but I do see that it's still oiling. We'll check that. We'll take the bar off, take this chain off, just like we did with our steel. Clean this cover up. A lot of filth on these. This saw has gotten quite a bit of use over the years, but since I'm thinning out the saw collection, Dad's retiring from the tree business, I'm still going to keep the stump grinding going, but I'm keeping about 5 or 6 saws. I don't need all of these, and if I'm being honest, since I pretty much have all other steel saws and the 880 Magnum and the other Husky trim saw that I had, I did get them running. Somebody made me an offer I couldn't refuse to take them the way they were. I didn't have to do anything to them, so those are no longer going to be in this video. But since I'm down to one Husky, it doesn't really make sense to me to keep this one because I have quite a few steel bigger saws when you need them for cutting things lower. And if I'm not doing trees, I really do not need about 20 saws I think we had in total. So 20 down to 5 seems like a good middle ground to me. Could probably part with more, but there's some of our newer saws that I'm not willing to part with yet. Using to scrape some of this crud off of here. And we're checking the same things. You can see that the sprocket's a little bit different, but that said, it actually looks pretty good. A little bit of crud down in there. Nothing too major. Put that off to the side for a minute. Let's check this bar out. Pretty straight. Don't really see any issues there. Nothing wiggling. Not bent. Which is good. There is some crud down in here. Same thing. Just take our scrunch tool into the end. There is residual oil on here, so that's good. It's gonna be a little bit hard for you to see, but I'll try and bring this closer. So right there is our oil port for the bar. This is just an Oregon bar instead of a steel or a Husky bar. Take a little bit more crap out of here, and we will go ahead and reassemble. So this one's a little bit different. Your guide for your bar is right here. You can put it either side if you needed to flip this bar. Just make sure we're fitting okay. I know I don't have the chain on. Not worried about that for a second. We'll run this back all the way. If I'm being perfectly candid and honest with you guys, which I tend to like to be, I really like the setup that Steel has for this more than I do doing it on the Huskies. That's probably another reason why I would switch back to only Steels. Just my personal preference. Everyone has theirs. You can certainly do whatever you feel is right. If you don't like the way I'm doing something, please by all means tell me in the comments below. Also, if you can do it better, start a YouTube channel. It's a fun little hobby, and someday someone might appreciate it when you're gone. At least that's what I like to think. Yeah, I remember that I hated putting these on, and I'm sure there are guys that are really, really good at this and can do it in 10 seconds, and that's good. I am certainly glad. Struggle is real. Back's just not gonna go in. How about this? No, thinking probably went too far back with my tensioner. Yep, look at that. Easy peasy. The things you lose when you don't do this every day with these saws. Snug these up. Stand this up a little bit more first. Go just a little bit more. Okay, so now I have 2 more saws we gotta do. This is exactly the same as the first saw I started off with. Now my hands are oily, makes that a little bit trickier. Give that one a little bit of a blowout. It's actually pretty clean. I'll leave that. Guess we'll put this back in the other saw. Ooh, tight. Tell these ones haven't been off in a little while. The older one I just fixed, but I didn't check underneath this bar cover. Oh. Hey guys, just wanted to jump in here and say I did do everything I did with the other ones. I just didn't want to bore you through cleaning it up and taking everything apart. So it makes the 02 series, the older saws from like 80s, different. Your adjustment screw is up here in the front instead of on the side. These are good saws. They can be a little bit cold-blooded, finicky in my opinion. But once you get them going, they're pretty unstoppable. I just, again, don't really need an older saw with all the saws that I have. Okay, next to blow these saws out, these air filters out, and then go from there. So this one's still filthy. For now, I'm just going to throw it back on that saw so nothing gets in the carb. But before I sell it, I'm going to go ahead and order a new one. These 2 did come out fine. These are also the same saw, so I don't have to worry about which one's which. So I don't have a good thing here. So I don't have a good sharpener here. I can hand file, but that's going to take a while for 4 saws worth of chains to do. I'm going to take those over to my dad's. He has a bench grinder to sharpener. So we'll do that there. Probably not going to get a video of it. I do need at least a filter for the Husqvarna. Other than that, I think these saws are pretty much ready to go. And this was probably a little bit of a lengthy video, but glad you stuck around with me. So I'm just going to go ahead and clean up. Don't forget, if you like any of the tools, especially like this scrunch tool, need a bunch of them, go down in the video description box. I always have my Amazon affiliate links. Doesn't cost you guys anything extra, but if you do order off of those links, I do get a little bit of money, so it helps me keep making videos for you guys. If you find something you like and you want to support the channel in a little more direct way. If not, it's free to like, comment, and subscribe. It would mean the world to me. Tells me what kind of things you guys enjoy and what you don't enjoy. So with that, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content.